Hey, this is Leach with Simsa Math, and probably I'm your business stats professor. If not, hey, welcome to Simsa Math YouTube channel. I'm Mark Leach. I'm helping you out here with these Excel projects. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about two of them describing data graphically and numerically, and the other one is the descriptive numerical analysis. They both are pretty similar because they're dealing with quantitative data. One is focusing on using functions to be able to use functions, use like the mean function, the minimum function, those things. And the other is using the Data Analysis ToolPak. So uh, if you haven't watched my video over over the chapter 2 one, over the one for qualitative or categorical data, go back and watch that. Make sure to remember mistakes allow thinking to happen. That's how you can be able to go back and fix yourself if you made a mistake or if Pearson is being picky about something, more likely. So go back, make sure to look at that so you can see what it's liking, what it's not liking. Um, so go back and double check that. If you have any questions about that, make sure to let me know. So I ramble less. Let's dive right in. Let's take a look at this. So the one I'm going to do first is the one where you are just using the functions, the built-in Excel functions. You could do this one. This is the describing data graphically and numerically. You could do this one in Excel Online. Heck, you could do it in Google Sheets and Numbers, I think, because you're able to use all these. But just get Excel, do it in the downloaded version because the next one you're going to need it to be the downloaded version. So this one says the present study shows data for sales of different sports equipment in 2017 in a sports supply store. The sales are provided per month. We'll identify the type of data for different variables and their measurement levels. We'll analyze the data numerically using measures of central tendency, mean, median, minimum, maximum, variability for the range, IQR, the interquartile range, standard deviation, and variance. We'll construct a frequency table and investigate the relationship between variables by analyzing the correlation. That's correlations from chapter 4. I'm suggesting this happens. You look at this in chapter 3, but I will show you about that in 4. I'll show you about that when we get there. We will also represent the data graphically by using line charts and pie charts. So I already have this done. I'm going to try to save a little bit of time by doing this kind of by showing it done and then showing you the functions. So let's take a look. So first up, you'll see as I scroll through, and I'll zoom in once we get done with the data into this a little bit closer. But I have there's a function. It's called formula text, and I'm using it to print the formula that I have applied on that row. So you'll see that when I get down there. I'll zoom in a little bit more on it so you can see it. But it's just my perspective, a teachery, demo-y perspective, a formula for me to be able to show you the formula that was used. So you should not have formulas just floating around over here. I just have those so that way you can see what we did. Okay, so I already have this done. So everything that in blue and these trend lines are actually not there when you open it up. So let me kind of walk through this top part real fast. So let's say we're going to select the type of data for equipment ID, sales, and equipment. So the type of the equipment ID, um, remember things that are ID numbers, really I would call them an identifier variable. Our books suggest that they are categorical or qualitative, but and they though they could be in an order, like you could like numerically order them. It doesn't really still these things are representing these things, and so there's not really an inherent order to balls, goals, nets, rackets, rods and tackle, and sticks, bats and clubs. So that's why it's nominal. Um, then for sales for each month, um, oh sorry, let me go ahead and jump to equipment again. Equipment is nominal because I think that's right. Actually, I haven't checked that, but that should be nominal. Again, because there could be numbers, but the order of those numbers doesn't make any sense. Um, but let's talk about the this ratio. Sorry, quantitative. Again, the nominal ratio, those are not covered in our text. That's why I'm like just telling you what they are. Um, so the cells for each month, that's what all these numbers are. Um, so it is quantitative because it's a bunch of numbers. But the options are interval or ratio. So notice the reason why it's ratio is if some, you know, like if balls sells twice, if they sell twice as much money, if yeah, let's look at here. This balls here in May is almost twice as much as they sold for rods and tackle. So being twice as much actually makes sense because there is a zero that makes sense here. If they sold $0, um, or yeah, if they sold $0 or something, there is a flat zero there. The interval would be necessary if zero doesn't really make sense. I think. I don't know. I think these words are stupid. I don't worry about them. Uh, so it's that's why it's this ratio because you could actually say that something is twice as big or half as much, and it makes sense in terms of like temperature. A 40-degree temperature in Fahrenheit versus 80 degrees in Fahrenheit. 80 degrees isn't twice as hot. That doesn't make any sense because zero is just kind of an arbitrary value. That's what's kind of that's about. Alrighty. 5. And cells uh, O3 to O8. So O3 to O8. Find the total sales for each equipment. Um, so across the year, they sold $24,000 ish of balls. How do we do that? Well, we just use the sum function. So if it wasn't here, if it was just empty, I would say equal to sum. You could open the parenthesis or just press tab because notice on this little drop down list, it's happy with it, has it selected. I'm just going to press tab. And there's a few ways you could do this. You could just click and drag. That's the easiest. Click and drag, close your parenthesis, press enter. If you don't close the parentheses, it might get angry about it. You could also, instead of clicking and dragging, you could just type in C3 colon in3. Select C3 colon in3 enter, and it does it. Or another way of doing it, especially this is really useful if it's a big sheet. Click on the first one, take your finger, press and hold the shift key, take your other finger, put it on the mouse or your trackpad, and click on the last one. And then you can let go of the shift key. So what that does, click on the first, hold in shift, click on the last. It'll then give you that interval. It's really helpful if you're having to scroll. So that's how that works. All right. In cell C9 to N9, find the total cells above them, and then in cell O9 for the total. So notice these cells are the sum of what's above. This is the sum of what's above for those particular products. And then so we can get the total. So how much money total do they sell across these items? Well, this is then adding up all those totals. We could get the same thing by filling down this down here, and doing, going from C9 to N9. Notice it's the same thing. I did that by just filling down. So notice how this is, oops, undo. Yep, this is doing, oh, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Don't forget about the fill option. If these were gone, check this out. If these were gone, I can fill down. Remember to fill. I should do this last time. I just got ahead of myself. I can fill down in one of two ways. I can click and drag. Now, what am I clicking on? There's a little square. I can't zoom in on my screen. There's a little square in the bottom right corner. Your cursor changes from a white plus to a black plus. Click and drag down. Or you can highlight what you want and press, make sure you're on home, fill down. Or you could have it highlighted and just press Command D. So any of those ways work. The other, what is this saying? It's saying, oh, they're omitting adjacent cells because it's saying I didn't, I think, go all the way down or something. It's fine. Then same thing here. Let's fill horizontally. Sure makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to fill. It's not a requirement to fill. But I mean, why not? That's kind of the benefit of that. All right. So I don't know why it's yelling at me that they're different. Yes, of course they're different. Okay. All right. So now it wants these spark lines. So that's what these are over here. Let me delete them and can I delete them? let's come over to the instructions. Oh, yeah. It says over here. Um, press Alt on your keyboard. What is this? Oh, hints are always helpful. The quick check the quick analysis button that appears. Oh, that's fancy. So they're saying I could have highlighted these, and it was like, hey, quick analysis. Did you want to do a thing? Did you want to find the sum? And that's what it tries to do or something? I don't know. I just type it in. That hurts my brain. Uh, then they're saying just click on this and do what? Use the sum shortcut. Click on cell C9 and then click Alt and then press equal. So they're saying if this was gone and I press Alt equal, it would sum above it. Well, how about that? So my camera's over here, so I keep looking at myself, expecting it to look at me and go, huh, how about that? So those are cool hints, or just use the sum function. Either of them work. Alrighty. Okay. So now let's do the trend lines. So click on cell P3, go to Insert, Spark Lines, and do Line, and use data C3 to N3. Can I make these things go away that are already there? Sure, temporarily. So I do Insert, and it wants Spark Lines, and it wants Line, and it wants my data range. So notice I have my data range selected right here. I could this button here is just saying collapse this window so you can see more of your screen. Uh, we don't really need that because it's not too big of a screen. I can just click and drag. And where do I want it? I want it there in P3, and it produces that trend line, and then I should be able to fill down. So it produces those that I can't delete right now for some reason. I don't know. Once they get made, I don't know how you get rid of them. Delete. Just delete them. Huh. I want them deleted. Huh. Well, there we go. I did it. Okay. So there's our trend lines. Just a way just to be able to see, oh, look, these wiggled but kind of generally trended up. This one jumped up and then kind of stayed up. So that's just nice little baby graphs. Okay. Answer some questions. Sure, they went up. Okay. Now to the good parts. Let me zoom in on here. Okay. So we're going to be using the built-in functions here. So once I find the average sales per month in 2017, um, so average is the mean, but notice that if you type the word mean, um, Excel does not know mean as the arithmetic mean. It knows the geometric mean, the harmonic mean, and the trim mean. But the that's not the arithmetic mean. So we have to use average. So I want the average sales per month. So that's I'm going to be using these total cells here. So look where it's no, it's blue on blue, but it's finding the average of these. So what do you do? If this wasn't here, and I'm not going to do this for all of it, but just this first one. So if this was not here, I would say average. Notice once I type in aber, I see several averages, but I'm just going to use basic average, the arithmetic mean. I'm going to press tab and then click and drag. Don't grab the total because then you're going to be double averaging. So I'm just running each month, January to December. And then I'm going to not close my parentheses and see what happens. It's fine with that. If you have things with parentheses, like nested parentheses and then other parentheses, sometimes it yells at you, goes, hey, you're missing a parenthesis. Don't worry, I added it for you. So that's how we do the mean, and then here's the median. Um, so in merged cells D20 to E20, select the shape of this thing right here. the shape of this. So based on this, we don't see a graph of it, but since the mean and the median, uh, the mean is just slightly bigger than the median, that gives us reason to suspect that the data might be somewhat right skewed. Um, and also, if we're looking at especially things like December sales, do you see how much bigger December is here? This is 12,000, so that's about 2,000 higher than the center. Um, January is also a little bit low, but we do have this, a little bit higher here. So I think MyLab is wanting it to say right skewed because this is bigger and not perfectly equal. But I would argue right skewed symmetric is fine if you're just kind of glancing at this. Because, glancing at this, and that's, within 100. So I don't remember. I didn't download the right answers. I don't remember which one it was. I don't know. Test it, plug it in, find out. I'm sorry, I should have checked. All right, now let's do minimum, maximum, and find the range. So the minimum is the min function. The max is the max function. So the same thing, same interval, C9 to C9 to N9. And then to get the range, there's no function for the range. You just got to do max minus min. So you could do this a few ways. Ideally, we're just going to use this function here, where it's just going to be this minus this. Easy enough. So to do that, if it was not there at all, I would say equal to maximum, the minus key, minimum, and it does that for us. If you wanted to be super fancy, do not do this. I don't think it's the right answer, but I could say equal to maximum of C9 to N9 minus the min of C9 to N9. Oops, I forgot I had parenthesis to N9. And we're going to get the same thing, but notice that's a much kind of bigger formula. Let me move that over. Notice it's a much bigger formula than what this is. Now that's handy if you haven't already figured those out, but since we already had these two calculated, just do the subtraction. Similarly, let's find Q1 and Q3. Um, so here we're using the does it say 15, 15, 15? It does not say exclusive or not. So there's a few formulas for quartiles. There's an old one, avoid it, don't use it, and then there's an inclusive and exclusive. So use the exclusive one. I think if it doesn't, I actually should have checked this before recording, but I'm already 18 minutes in. We'll find out. So I believe the exclusive is fine. There's a homework assignment I know that I have on the homework that I go through the exclusive method, like the two key method, the regular kind of by hand method. The one problem with Excel is it does like extrapolate these quartiles. It doesn't use kind of our typical method. It depends on a few things. So this even might be a little bit different, but shrug. I believe the exclusive should work. If it doesn't, I showed you how to check it. Make that switch. And we're just demoing, make sure we're good with these formulas. And then again for IQR, just do the subtraction just like we did for the range. Now it's running the 5-number summary. So for the 5-number summary, we just need, notice these are all just cell references. We're just looking up. So minimum, Q1, median, Q3, maximum. Notice I've had you across here find the 5-number summary, just not in order. So now you're putting in order from least to greatest. Minimum, median, Q1, Q3. Sorry, minimum, Q1, median, Q3, maximum. All right, so now we need to find the standard deviation. If you start typing equal STD, careful there. If you start typing an STD for standard, or actually the ST for standard, D for the deviation, you'll see several options. You'll see some old ones we avoid. And then you should see it's stdev.p and .s. P is for population, that is for dividing by n instead of dividing by n minus 1. We're going to be using the S because that is the sample standard deviation. Let's look at the directions. It says find the standard deviation. It doesn't tell you more information, but if I'm doing that, we're kind of assuming that this is, yes, this is what they all sold, but you kind of imagine this like a random sample of what kind of could happen. So we often will use that sample standard deviation. So do the dot S. If you do the dot P, it divides by n instead of n minus 1. So we use the dot S version. And then to find the variance, let's go ahead and use the variance formula. Do note that I could say equal to this cell shift 6 to give me a little caret and then squared. So if I literally square this number, oh, by the way, pro tip, did you see how this was all those hashtags, all the pound signs? That's just saying, it's a number, but it's too small and I can't show it. So I double clicked on the space between E and F, like I would use to adjust the size of the column E. If I double click, it will auto expand to fit. So it fits it to that size. So notice if I square my standard deviation, I get the variance. Likewise, if I square root function, by the way, is SQRT. If I square root this cell, square root the variance, I should get the standard deviation because that's that relationship. Don't leave these. These are not what we need to do. That was just a teaching moment. But use the functions instead of this square. All right, because it doesn't say otherwise, and so let's just use the function. All right, for 20, F35 to F40 construct a frequency table. So this is going to be the frequency table for the total cells in that. It's almost really a relative frequency. Did I do that right? I should have submitted this and checked. I think frequency. This is relative. Oh. It says percentage. So really, it's almost a relative frequency. But that could have been more clearly worded. I don't make this. This is from MyLab. It really should be a relative frequency, or it says something about percent. But because of that percentage here, we're going to do percent. So just like what we did in chapter 2, for that frequency, this is more of a relative frequency. So I need to find, so I've double clicked here and it's highlighting things. So what it's doing is it's finding the percentage of cells from the balls. So it's this O3 over 09. O3 over 09. But I'm going to want to fill down. So I've locked in, I've frozen in. Make sure to look back at chapter 2, the previous video for this. I've frozen in. I've used the absolute references. So just to be clear, if I type in 09 and I'm going to press F4, I can toggle between the different dollar sign arrangements, or just manually type in the dollar signs. And those dollar signs will freeze that cell in place, so that way when I fill down, that fills down correctly. If I just have 09 like this, and I fill down, I get a whole bunch of divide by zeros, because notice what happens. I'm now dividing by 010, 011, 012, and that is incorrect. All right, so now it's when you find the correlation between two numbers, between two variables. So this is actually chapter 4. If you haven't done chapter 4, don't stress about this. Let's just show you how to do this. Correlation's function is coral. If you're not sure, just start typing the word correlation. And, well, it's the only option left. And it says, returns the correlation coefficient between two data sets. Pearson correlation coefficient, that is R. When you look in chapter 4, that's just the full name for that term. It's R, or correlation. So to do that, notice when I said equal to correlation, it says I want array 1, array 2. Array is an array, a grouping, like a list, basically two lists, two chunks of numbers. So Um, this first one, let me double click in it. So I want it between balls and goals. So I've highlighted C3 to C3 to N3, comma, then C4 to N4. And then similarly between nets and rods and tackle. So same thing, just highlight, comma, highlight. All right. Um, and then in chapter 4, we'll talk about how the stronger relationship is the one that is closer to 1 or to -1. And since this is closer to 1 than that one, closer to 1 or -1, um, then we know that the relationship between nets and rods and tackle is stronger than balls and goals. So they both have a bit of a relationship. The nets and rods and tackle are a bit stronger. Um, all right. We just cover some graphs. So follow those directions. This is the time when it does a 3D graph. Oh, I have submitted this somewhere. Yeah. I guess this is fine. I don't have that graded, but previously I've submitted this and I think it's fine because this was what it was wanting. Because I got mad at it because it, it wants a 3D graph and I tried to make it not be a 3D graph and it was like, I don't see the graph. So we hate 3D graphs, but nonetheless, we're going to do it so we get the grade. Um, okay, so I think that should be super duper helpful for that one. Now let's walk you through um, this housing data. I'm going to do just the first like half. I'm going to show you the first half. Ooh, this is the graded one. Do I have the non-done one? Oops, I need to download it. So let me do that real fast. So this is descriptive numerical analysis, I think. Is that right? Someone that was submitted. Yeah, descriptive numerical analysis. Download Excel. So this one, you have to do Excel. You have to do it in a downloaded copy of Excel onto a computer. If you have a Chromebook, you need to borrow a friend who does not have a Chromebook, or you need to go to the MyLab, or go to the library, or find another solution. You cannot just do this in Excel online. Cannot do this in numbers. Cannot do this in sheets. Okay, so this study investigates the distribution of sale prices for homes in a region in upstate New York. This project will also seek to compare the distributions of sale prices between homes with central air and homes without central air. Suppose you're being transferred to this area and are interested in getting a good description of selling prices for homes in this region. The variables collected in the data are price, recorded that's in dollars, lot size measured in acres, living area in square feet, the percentage of students going to college or percent college, central air, yes or no. No is 0, yes is 1. The number of bedrooms, the number of fireplaces, the number of bathrooms. And then for the purpose of the project, we're only going to be looking at the variables price and central air. Okay, so I'm not going to do this whole thing. I'm just going to kind of start it and get you started on the histograms, on the second set of histograms. So first, it says start Excel. We did it. Download this. Yep. Obtain the descriptive stats. So to do this, we need to do the Data Analysis ToolPak, and it's telling you about it here. Let me show you how to get that set up. So when I go to data, I see a thing, I have a section that says analysis, and I have this thing that says data analysis. If you don't have that, you need to pay attention to all these steps. If you do have that, skip ahead. So, again, make sure you are on a downloaded version of Excel, not online. So you can't do this on a Chromebook, not numbers, not Google Sheets. Has to be downloaded copy of Excel that is free to you as a college student. Well, free, you're already paying for it. Get that downloaded copy. When you go to your like Outlook online, top right corner ish, there should be like a download option. Download it. Um, yep. All right. So, um, if you all right. Then, so what I've done, I'm going to go to File. I've been in the top left corner, File. Move your cursor all the way down to Options. Then under the options, select add-ins. Um, and then come all the way down to manage Excel add-ins. That should be what should already be selected is Excel add-ins, and select go. So we're going to turn on, this is an add-on that is already available. They've just are by default have it turned off. So turn on Analysis ToolPak. Don't do the one that says VBA. I think that's Visual Basic or something like that. Don't do that thing. I think that has macros or something. Um, so just check Analysis ToolPak and say, oh, okay. And then it'll be here. Okay, next. Now let's follow the directions. I'm going to go to Data, go to Data Analysis ToolPak. Yep. Select Descriptive Statistics, um, and then select Price column. I'm going to actually, this might be helpful why it might be in a different tab. Is there a way to have this be side by side? No, I'm going to, well, we'll just see, but we'll just try our best. Okay. Uh, select Price column as I'm going to select Price column as the input range, grouped by columns. Let's do the things. Okay, so let's go over to Data. I'm going to select the Data Analysis ToolPak and we'll do the descriptive stats. Descriptive statistics and say OK. I should be able to move around because it's like wanting me to select things. So I'm going to say instructions. It's saying, oh, instructions, but that's not what we want. We'll fix that in a second. We're going to select the price column as the input range. So I'm going to also check grouped by columns. Yep. Check labels in the first row. Yep. Oh, why are you mad at me? Instructions, it wants price. So column A, like that. I'll have to put that back. Select the price column. So I'll do that again in a second. I'm just trying to finish the rest of the directions. Um, choose cell I1 for the output. And we want summary stats. And don't do anything else. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so let's go back to our data. So, okay. So my input range is the column for price. So I'm just going to say column A like this. If you click column A, it's going to say A to A. I guess it says data because I've been bouncing around. It's fine. I could get rid of it, but it doesn't really matter. I want the output range to be, ugh, I want the output range to be in cell I1. So I want it to put it in cell I1. You don't have to have the data there. It's just because I've been bouncing around. Stop it. Click. There we go. Well, okay, fine. It's going to have the data. And it wants summary statistics selected. I think I had everything. Yes, it's helpful to have it in a separate tab. Okay. Say OK. And so what it's done is it's stuck the price. Let me double click right here to make that be bigger. Let me show you again what I just did. Double click right here, make it be bigger. And so here it's giving us our values. I double clicked again right there to make those numbers be bigger because this was converting sample variance in scientific notation and I didn't like that. So auto expanding that. So here's our mean, standard error, median, mode, standard deviation. You don't know what standard error is, so we skip over that. You don't know what that is yet. You don't know kurtosis and skewness. That's beyond the scope of this course. Hey, look, it did give us our range, minimum, maximum. We added them all up into the sum, and there was 1,728 things. So do you see how, oh, you can't see that my scroll bar, but your scroll bar is super tiny. If I scroll all the way down as far as it'll let me, notice how it's 1,728. It's on the 1,729th row, but there's a header row. So lots of data here. All right, so now it wants us to, um, in cell I16 of the data worksheet, type Q1. in cell J16, calculate the value of the first. So I16, they want Q1, and I17, they want Q3. So I16, they want Q1, and they want us to calculate Q1. So equal to quartile, and I think we should do the EXC. We want, I think we can get away with just the whole column because it will ignore the word for price and say comma 1. And then similarly, we want Q3. I'm going to cheat a little bit and just kind of highlight and scroll down and change this to be Q3 and change this to be the third. So I did a little fill down, even though I knew it would be wrong. It was just kind of like copying and pasting, but a little bit faster. And then it wants me to in cells. Why is that scrunched up? Cells D7 to D14 on the problem. Identify the things. All right. So now that we have all that done, they're just wanting us to go back and look at it and say, okay, well here's our mean. So I'm going to say equal to, click, mean, enter. And it's already set to round to the nearest cent. Same thing for standard deviation, equal to, click on data. It is saying data exclamation point because it's changing tabs. Standard deviation, enter. So keep this up. Minimum. First quartile. This was the one that we calculated. Equal to. Click on data. Find the median. Press enter. Equal to. Click on data. Find Q3 that we calculated. By clicking on it, press enter. Maximum. Click equal to. Click on data. Maximum. Enter. The sample size equal to, click on data, that's the count. Alrighty. So now to begin the construction of the histogram of the sale prices, we need to determine our bins. Let's go over to instructions because they will have more full directions for this. This is for number 3. Uh, mm, oh, they're saying to do that we need to find the upper limit of the bars, and so we're going to need to find the range. So find the range. So well, we've already determined the range. It's right here. So now we need to find, so for number 4, calculate the size of the bins for 25 bins. So if I want 25 bins and this is my range, we're just going to take this range and divide it by 25. So equal to this thing divided by 25. I'm going to do a quick double check to make sure that that's right, because I already have this pulled up. This one. Yep, D18 divided by 25 is what it's looking for. Yep. All right, so now we're going to do the histogram. The Excel does a bad job at histograms. So we're going to be using the data analysis thing to make a histogram. It still does a bad job with histograms. It's not the best histogram maker. But this add-on is at least better than what the native histogram does. And used to, before when they made this, there was no histogram. It didn't even attempt to make a histogram. It just made bad bar charts. Okay. So now we need to, but because of that, we're doing the Data Analysis ToolPak, which kind of has these wonky steps. So to construct the histogram, first create a column of our bins on the data worksheets. Since the bin size is not a round number in thousands of dollars, we're going to choose the bin size to be 30,000. In cell K1 on the data worksheet, we'll type bin size. In cell K2, we'll type 30,000, which, like, I don't know, it's kind of silly for us to do that, and then they just say use 30,000. We'll we'll type 30,000 and then 6,000, and then it should drag that sequence all the way down. So let's follow those directions. So in cell K1 on data, type the word bin size. Then in cell K2, type 30,000. No commas. Then in K3, type 60,000. And then drag the sequence down until we pass the most expensive selling price. So our maximum is 775,000. So I'm going to highlight this and then drag this down. Oops, sorry. I'm going to drag down until, notice my cursor goes from the white plus to the black plus by getting in that bottom corner. I need to surpass 775,000. Right now I'm at 750,000, and there's 780,000, so this is far enough. So there are my bin sizes, and I believe this is actually the upper part of the bins. There really is, it's going to start at 0 and go up to 30, because notice we have a minimum here at 5,000, so it's actually going to go from 0 to 30, 30 to 60, 60 to 90,000. All right, so now we need to insert our histogram. So in the data worksheet, select data analysis, in the analysis ToolPak, do histogram. We're going to do price as our column. Price column is the input. Our bin size, we're going to say it's the column starting on the bin size column starting at cell K1 as our bin range. Check labels. Choose M1 as the data worksheet output range. Check chart output. Don't do anything else. Okay. So this is when, especially in this one, it'd be helpful to have the Word document so you can have them both visible. Actually, I have these directions on this other. Yeah. Let's do this. This one is the graded one. This one here. Well, at least I can see it. Okay. Actually, let me switch these two. Okay. Because my head's covering this one up. Okay. So, this says, I'm going to come over to data. I'm going to select data analysis. I'm going to select histogram. Say OK. So now ask some questions. What's my input range? Well, my input range is going to be the price. Does it want... Oh, too far. Why are you doing so much? Okay. We do have labels. It doesn't, does it say? Oh, there it is. Check labels. Yes. Check labels. That's what I was checking. All right. Then it wants our bin range. So let me scooch over here. Oh, I need to be clicked in this box so I can scooch over. My bin range. So it says select the column starting on cell K1. Yes. Oh, so it's saying make sure to include that. Or maybe is it just wanting this? I'm going to just highlight K1 to K27. Let's see if it just is happy with that. But I do have labels checked because I selected that labels. If I didn't, then I would need to have bin size and then that price not be selected. But since this goes into thousands, it's really easy just to say all of that price. All right, it now wants labels checked. Choose our output range to be M1. And this is picky. Make sure you follow those placement directions correctly because MyLab is going to be looking for it in a certain spot. And if it's not in that spot, it's going to get angry and mark it off. So make sure to put it exactly where it wants you to. On the data, on the output range. and check chart output. Don't do Pareto. That's a sorted histogram. We're not doing that. And it does not want cumulative percentages. And we say OK. And let's see if it does it. Hey, I see a histogram. It's not great. It's not a great histogram because the bars aren't touching, and we might fix that in a second. All right, so now select the histogram, and we're going to then choose Move Chart in the Design tab on the ribbon. We'll select the problem worksheet, and then drag the histogram on problem into its spot on cell C23. All right, so I'm going to click on this, go to, did it say format? Select the histogram, then choose Move on the Design tab on the ribbon. Chart Design. Move Chart. Where do you want to move it to? Move it to be an object in problem. And we say, oh, tay. And it moves it over here. And now I can drag it. Okay, I'm dragging it too far. There we go. And put it in this spot, big old spot in cell C, whatever. And then edit the chart elements. Change the title to be distribution selling prices and right click on one of the bars, select format data series and select the gap width to be 0. So the title is distribution of selling prices, for some reason uncapitalized. And then right click. Does it say right click? Right click one of the bars, format data series, gap width zeros. It's already popped up over here, but if it didn't, then I could make it pop up. And I want the gap width to be 0. Right now it's at 150. I want it to be 0. So there we go. That's like a histogram that we want. Now, personally, I'm going to not change this for real. Personally, I would have the bars, I would make the bars have a border. So that way you would see the difference in those lines. But I'm going to undo that and put that back. But doesn't that look so much nicer? With the bars having a little bit of black outline right there, so you can actually see those. But I mean, who am I? Okay, so that is that. Answer these questions. It's skewed right. If it's skewed so much, what should you do? The mean or the median? The median. I mean, for crying out loud, this is one of the examples. I'm sure if you have me in class, I was talking housing price, the cost of homes, the housing market. Those houses are skewed to the right, so very much so. Okay. Now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, uh, and I want to talk about um, this next part. This next part confuses some students. It's going to be, I think it's 13. Yeah. So I'm going to jump ahead. I'm just going to set this up, and then I'll wrap up because I'm already pushing almost 50 minutes. Um, the some students they're like, what are we doing here with these next set of directions? It should make sense, just kind of keep going. But the idea here is what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to take this take this data and separate it into the houses with central air and the houses without. If you're one of my students, you live in Texas most likely, unless you're online and you're somewhere else. But you live in Texas, and we hopefully every one of our houses has central air. Remember, this is from upstate New York, so their summers don't get as hot, so they can get away without having central air, instead of like just window units or even no air conditioning. So let's follow these directions. So we're going to construct two histograms. But first we have to separate the data. So it says first create two columns of data on the data worksheet. Copy the price column to columns P and Q. All right, so let's do that. So on data, I'm going to copy price. So I'm just going to click on A. So notice on the letter A, I'm just going to click and it highlights the whole column. Copy, and then come over to P and press paste, and do the same thing in Q and press paste. Yes, it's the same thing twice. In cell P1, type price without central error. In Q1, do price with central error. Price without central error. And then this is price with central error. And I'm going to go ahead and double click these just so I can see the without and with. Let me double check out and with. Without is P, with is Q. Then select the first row. Okay, I'm going to select the first row. Go to the Home tab and select Sort and Filter. So somewhere, select the first row. So I'm in the first row. So somewhere in this first row, it's selected. Go to the editing section of the Home tab and select Sort and Filter and select Filter. Oh, I think it needs it over here. Wait. Select the first row. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to select all of the first row and then do Filter. There we go. So I needed to select all of the filter because a second ago I just saw these little triangles, these little drop down menu options on P and Q, and I need it across the whole thing. I don't really need it across this group. This group is just, in the way. But I need price, and I need this price column to be connected to this P and Q column. So I selected the first column, first row, like it said, by highlighting it, and then turned on the filter. Okay. Then um, in E1, I'm going to open the drop-down menu and select to show only the 0. If it's 0, that means it does not have central error. So notice E is my central error group. So I'm going to come here and I want only the 0 to show up. So I'm going to uncheck the 1 and say OK. So notice that if I start counting my rows, I see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is temporarily hiding, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 19 is hiding, 31's hiding. So I'm hiding some of them. So let me just double check. It wants only show 0. All right, so now I'm going to delete all the filtered values from column Q. So what's happening here is it's hiding, it's only showing those without central error. So all of these, so all the ones that are visible right now do not have central error. So this price, so if I get rid of everything in Q, so here all the way down, oh wow, this is really long. There we go. Okay, and I had to do it that way because I didn't want to delete price with central error. Um, so I highlighted everything but the top row and pressed then just the delete key on my keyboard. Backspace would not work. It needs to be delete. If you're on a Mac, you might have to do like function delete or control delete or something. Alt delete. Okay, so what that just did is notice every one of these under central error, if you look under the central error right here, every one of these is 0. So what's remaining is all of these are the ones without central error. So it might make a little bit more sense in just a second. But I just deleted everything with central error. But the ones that are with the central error are actually not seen right now. Okay. Then in cell E1, go back and select all those that show only 1, and then select everything, delete everything from P. Okay. So I'm going to actually reveal a little bit of what's happening. I'm going to turn them both back on real fast. So you'll see that this one, notice I deleted these because they did not have central layer, but this one was hidden, this one with central layer, so it was not deleted. And then similarly for this one, and similarly for this one. Now I want to do the same thing but for those with central layer. So now I'm going to uncheck the 0 and only have the 1 be available. So now all of these central layers are the ones with a 1, that means they have central layer. So now I'm going to get rid of all these without central layer. This list is a little bit shorter. And go deleted. And I think the next direction would say to turn them both back on. Go back to E1 and show all values. Go back to E1 and show all values. So now we could see that now I have a list of those with and those without central layer. So this is the ones without, this is the ones with. All right. Then it says, so now we're going to construct the histogram using the data analysis for the price without central layer, using the same bin size that we had before. But this time we're going to choose the cell R1 for our on the data worksheet as the output, and change our name and have everything be the same. So basically we're going to redo what we just did, but we're going to do it for this with and without. So I'm not necessarily going to follow the directions per se. I mean, we just want us to put it in R1, right? R1 and then T1. All right, so I'm going to go to data analysis, histogram. This time, where's our input range? Our input range is going to be this price without central layer, this column P. Yes, we have labels. Our bin sizes are going to be the same thing, K1 through K whatever. Our output range this time is going to change to be R1. So just check here, click in R1, and we want our chart output, but I don't want the others. So we'd say OK. So this is our histogram for just this bin size. Histogram for just the without. And then you would move it and you would make the bin size, the gap width be 0. And then you could do it, and then we would do the similar thing for the width. So again, with central layer, same bin size, yes, labels. This time I have it go in T. Oop, let me delete this and put it into T right here. And yes, we have our chart output, and it looks like this one. Again, move it, fix your gaps, and then it looks like I have mine done. Looks like here. Nope, not that one. This one. And then they look like that when you're comparing. Then you'll do similar things. You're going to do similar what you did before with your data analysis. Get your minimum, get your Q1, be able to make those comparisons, and then and then discuss here. Again, if you're stuck, it tells you exactly what it's looking for once you get that data analysis done. But I think I went through kind of the sticking points there a little bit. So making sure we have data analysis. I've demoed how to do a histogram and also the let me move back to this one. Demoed how to do the histogram and the and our summaries here. So yeah, hopefully this should be helpful for you to get it done. It's just a thing to get through it. And again, if you get stuck, download and double check what it wants, and then we submit it. All right. If you have any questions, I know this was long, but hopefully you're able to speed me up or skip around as needed. Don't hesitate to reach out to me on Discord or email, or if you're in my in-person class, just check me out there. All right, I'll talk to you later. See you in the next one. Bye.